Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to give a few more minutes for Board Member Ovia to get here. So just going to give it about 3 more minutes. Thanks. All right, the time is 5:20. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here. Let's see. Again, it's 5:20. I'd like to call our meeting to order and move to our tribal land acknowledgement. In partnership with the tribes who called Phoenix their home first, we acknowledge and respect the land our schools are built on. We commit to being a strong partner with any and all tribal nations who entrust their children to our schools. We are grateful and honored to be partners. May we please have a roll call?
Roll call for Ms. Erica De La Rosa.
Here.
Dr. Alicia Vink.
Here.
President Carmen Trujillo.
Present.
Ms. Erica Ovalle.
Thank you very much. With quorum present, we're able to proceed. If you wish to do so, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the adoption of our agenda. I'll ask first, Dr. Gonzalez, do you have any recommendations for our agenda this evening?
Good evening, Madam President. Staff recommends you accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you very kindly. With that, I move that we adopt our agenda as presented. Do we have a second?
Alicia Vink, a second.
Thank you very much. May we please have a roll call vote, Mrs. Ship?
Ms. Erica De La Rosa,
Aye.
Dr. Vink,
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye. With that, our motion passes, and we'll move on to item B1, our superintendent's report.
Good evening, Madam President, our members of cabinet, our public, and the viewing community. We are so excited to be welcoming everybody to a new academic year with our students starting tomorrow morning. Last night, we were able to welcome students and their families to our schools. They had a chance to go see their new classrooms, meet their new teachers and principals. And this morning, we welcomed back our entire Phoenix #1 staff. And it was wonderful to have Dr. Vink there, who was able to join us. We got to celebrate our employees who have been with us for over 30 years. One of those employees has actually been with us for 54 years. We also featured a new celebration this year where we had members who went to Phoenix Elementary as elementary children who now work for us and had them come up to be celebrated. And I will tell you, it was the most touching moment in our presentation. And of course, we also have our Inspiration Award winners who were announced today. We have really amazing staff and principals. And speaking of principals, we have a lot to celebrate with our site leaders. We have 4 new principals this year. At Emerson, Ms. Gafonia is moving to be the principal there. At Faith North, Ms. Eddington, who had been the IEIS at Faith North, she's taking over as the new leader. At Garfield, Ms. Sumida, who was IEIS at Lowell and a student from Lowell, she is now going to be leading Garfield. And at Whittier, we're welcoming Mr. Holmes, who is joining our team. We're proud to be able to continue to promote strong leaders who have a vision and a passion for serving our students and staff with the very best academic experiences. We're also proud to be one of the recognized, having one of our principals recognized as the Maricopa County School Superintendent Exemplary Principal for 2024-2025. That was awarded last Friday to Ms. Susan Engdahl at Shaw Elementary. The award was presented by Superintendent Shelley Boggs, who went through a rigorous review process to determine who would receive that award. I want to end tonight by thanking the incredible people that we don't always see who work behind the scenes to make sure that our schools are ready for our students and families. Our plant services team has worked tirelessly throughout the summer, making sure our grounds are in great shape, our maintenance teams working in classrooms, making sure carpet is repaired, molding is painted, cabinets are painted, things are fresh and updated for our students, making sure that we have our child nutrition team who's been working on making sure we've got great meals that are healthy and nutritious for our children, getting transportation to be able to work on getting students where they need to be safely, moving furniture, moving curriculum, our curriculum teams, everyone making sure that everything is in place for the start of a very, very positive school year. And we're just so grateful to everybody. So I also want to thank our cabinet members who, in addition to everything they do on a regular basis, this summer have pitched in to drive buses for our new teacher orientation days, have stepped in to be receptionists to cover the front desks, who have helped assist teachers in moving into their classrooms and getting their classrooms set up and organized. Throughout this summer, I have seen every member of our team step up in a way that is really remarkable. And our shirts say, one team, this is our new motto this year, one team, one mission, every family, every child. And what I've seen from every member of this district exemplifies this ethos. And I know that with all of this, it's going to be a fabulous year. And I couldn't be prouder to be working with all of you to make this a great year for our students. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
It's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Do we have any other, I'm sorry, we'll move on to item B2, which is our board members' reports. Do we have any board members' reports to share? No. I'll share a few small things. I was really lucky to visit some of the schools last week with Dr. Gonzalez as teams prepared for the start of the school year. It was great to connect with administration, the staff on campuses getting ready for our students. I just wanted to welcome everybody back and thank them for the work that they do, for choosing Phoenix Elementary, and for just choosing the profession in general to help lead our students. I think it's just such respected work, and I don't know how you guys do it all the time. I also wanted to apologize for not making it to the rally this morning. I had an appointment for my son, so I thought I would be out in time and I wasn't, but it wasn't intentional. So just wanted to welcome everybody back and wish them a great start the school year tomorrow morning. Other than that, we will move on to item C1 and adjourn to our executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn to executive session at 5:28?
Alicia Fink, so moved.
Thank you kindly. Do we have a second?
Erica De La Rosa, second.
Thank you so very much. May we please have a roll call vote?
Roll call for Ms. De La Rosa.
Aye.
Dr. Vink.
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
With that, our motion passes and we will be in executive session, hopefully for not longer than about 30 minutes or so. We'll be meeting to receive and discuss legal advice from our attorney for the public body regarding the board's options with respect to the superintendent's performance-based compensation pay. Thank you. We'll be back soon. All right. The time is 5:42 PM and I'd like to, we are back in the boardroom and we're able to resume to regular session. And we'll move on to action item D1, which is to request approval of the superintendent's performance-based pay for the 24-25 school year. I move that the governing board award the superintendent with 18,000 of performance pay. Do we have a second?
Alicia Vinca, second.
Thank you very much. May we please have a roll call vote?
Roll call for Ms. De La Rosa.
Aye.
Dr. Vink.
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to action item D2. Uh, We will move on to item D2 to receive, discuss, and amend if desired, and if deemed advisable, to adopt a resolution approving the governing board's argument in support of the special district additional assistance override election. On the dais, we've got a draft of what our pro statement could look like. And it can work for, well, either way. The draft is on everyone's desk area. And so we can either collaborate and make adjustments to this, or we can move forward to approve it. So that's where we're at. If you guys could just give that a review really quick. Not really quick, take your time, but please review it. Mr. Whittle, will this be posted? Where does this get posted at? Just so we're clear.
Madam President, members of the board, this will get posted on the Maricopa County Elections website.
Perfect.
And it will also be posted in the pamphlet that goes out.
The pamphlet, got it, okay. With that, I'd like to move that we approve the governing board's argument in support of the special district additional assistance override election, subject to final review and revisions of the board's legal counsel. Do we have a second?
Alicia Vinca, second.
Thank you kindly. May we please have a roll call vote?
Ms. De La Rosa. Aye. Dr. Vink.
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to action item D3. Receive, discuss, and amend if desired, and if deemed advisable, to adopt a resolution approving the governing board's argument in support of the special maintenance and operations budget override election. So the recommendation I would like to make is the argument will be universal, and we can add the special maintenance and override, maintenance and operations budget override wording to the draft for this item. Does that sound okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I'd like to move that we approve the governing board's argument in support of the special maintenance and operations budget override election, subject to final review and revisions of the board's legal counsel. Do we have a second?
Alicia Vinca, second.
Thank you kindly. May we please have a roll call vote?
Ms. De La Rosa. Aye. Dr. Vink.
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, our motion passes. And we'll move on to item E1, our student outcomes focused governance information space. With this, I'll share that we do plan to discuss where we are as far as being on track for board goals number 2 and board goals number 5 this evening. So we'll receive a presentation of the data on both of those, which I believe both are concerning math. So with that, we will move on to item E2 and give the floor to Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President. And on goal, both of these, you're correct. These are our math goals. Goal 2 is for early years math. Goal 5 is for middle years math. And you'll recall the cover sheet that you see on that's projected here is the target goal. So when the governing board set the 5 goals, this goal is a 5-year goal moving from 29% in 2024 to 54% of students meeting proficiency in 2028. That goal was set looking at prior performance and where we wanted to go. And it was presented to families. Families weighed in on whether or not they thought these were the right goals to move forward with. And now we have been working to be able to move toward achieving that accomplishment. So on the cover sheet, you see where we started in 2021 at 12% of our students meeting proficiency. To after the 2022 school year, 28. In 2023 and 2024, you see that we stayed stagnant at 29%. And if we hit our target this year, we would be at 35% making that. This is a big picture. What we see when we meet throughout the year for progress monitoring, we're looking at interim measurements, trying to understand, are we putting in place the correct strategies, the correct kind of coaching and feedback? Are we using the right curriculum to ensure that we are going to hit these targets on an annual basis? So one of the things that you'll notice on these cover sheets, we're looking at where we were, where we're heading, and where we are currently. And you also see that we knew right away some of the areas that we needed to focus on. These included our exceptional education students, students receiving special education services, our English language learners who are students who are working on developing their biliteracy, and and really honing in on what we call Tier 1 instruction. This is that best first instruction that is trying to make sure every student is getting their grade level standards and that they're getting the supports that they need to be successful with that. So as we go to the next page, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ailshire, who's going to talk about where we are currently with that data.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you, Madam President, to our wonderful board, my colleagues on cabinet, and of course, our wonderful community. So if we move on to the next slide there, yep. So you will see here that while our goal was 35% of what we want to achieve, we came just short of that goal. We actually came in at 32% of our students passing on the 3rd grade. A little context, though, I think is important for this data, which is that when you compare this to the state average, the state actually dropped by 2%. So we're actually now closer with this 3% increase, while just shy of our goal, actually puts us closer to the state average than we've ever been in the past 5 years. So I think there are some things to celebrate, well, though we recognize the need to continually emphasize growth and progress. So if you take a look over at the right-hand column there, again, as Dr. Gonzalez pointed out, you see the number of students in each one of those subgroups categories. So these are, 31 African-American students in our 3rd grade cohort, less than 10 in the American Indian, Asian, Pacific Islander categories, as well as then 32 white students in that cohort, 332 Hispanic students, 16 multiracial, so a total number of 436 students in that cohort. And I bring that up because we really do want to take a look especially at that number of Hispanic students, which represent our largest demographic, and we saw some significant gains in that group. They actually came closest to their target goal, which is something that we're wanting to keep feeding and being proud of and keep working on, because we see all of the other subgroups needed to continue to make some additional gains towards that area. But we're seeing some gains in some of the subgroups that we wanted to highlight. And again, looking at, as Dr. Gonzalez pointed out, our need to be looking at our ESS students and our English language learner students. Their target for us to meet the overall goal of 35% was 21% and 22% respectively, and they came in less than that at 10% and 15%. So that is what the goal looks like in terms of the overall picture. If we move to the next slide.
But before we move to that slide, we do have a question that was submitted by President Trujillo. She says, congratulations on the overall increase and increases in this particular data set. Thank you to the staff and students. The hard work is showing. Based off this data from last year's third grade cohort and the current data we're looking at, what strategies or interventions will take place moving forward? And that leads into your slide.
Very well. Thank you. So we move into the next slide. And actually, I'm also going to ask that Dr. Galetti come on up here. She's been working really hard with Ms. Brown as well. She's serving as backup too to make sure that I don't say anything incorrect, but also making sure that we're adding additional details to any information I'm putting out because they are highly focused on our areas of math, both for our third grade students across the board. And you'll see an outline plan later on for goal number 5. So looking at to address President Trujillo's question, putting it out there in the universe for you. To address President Trujillo's question in regards to what interventions are being done, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Galetti, who's going to be kind of outlining what is working well in the data and what we're seeing in terms of the gains that we're making, but also what needs more attention, and to that end, addressing some of the questions that President Trujillo put out there. So Dr. Galetti, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ailshire. Thank you, President Trujillo, members of the board, superintendent and community. So some of the things that we have seen that we're really working over this past year, schools that were really focused on professional learning, specifically supporting math instruction aligned to the standards, monitoring and supporting consistent use of curricular resources. So that consistency is something that we're going to be continuing to really work on this year with all of our schools. Increasing teacher efficacy, so really ensuring that our teachers feel confident, and ways that we're going to support that confidence with math is by supporting them both with coaching across our schools, but also with the planning process. So Susan is our district math coach back here. She always talks about do the math before you're teaching, making sure that that our teachers are doing the math. And what that does is it really helps to ensure that our teachers are planning with students firmly at the center of what they're doing, so that they're looking for where are those misconceptions that students might have, so that they are planning and front loading some of those needs that might exist for students before they're encountering those issues on their own. So that planning piece. Providing consistent coaching and feedback, and really looking at the problem solving as well. We know that there are a lot of word problems on the assessment for math, and this is an area that we've identified with Dr. Lloyd that we need to do some deeper work with. So that's bringing in those language strategies, ensuring that all of our teachers see themselves as language teachers and that they know the strategies that they can utilize, not just in math class or in ELA class, but what are students encountering across the day, across their school experience that is going to help to provide them with the vocabulary and the understanding so that when they see those word problems, they know what to do and what math applications to provide. Additionally, helping our teachers to understand how to utilize the manipulative. So we talk a lot about hands-on math and how do we use those manipulatives to help math, help them develop the conceptual understanding and the numeracy around math so that it exists in a way that is tangible to them. They can see it, they can interact with it, and they can really develop the numeracy and the mathematical skills that they need to apply for those word problems when they encounter them.
Thank you, Dr. Galetti. And there's a couple of things I wanted to actually also point out in the data. We don't have our world famous Dr. Lloyd here, but he gave me some insights into sort of the context and the background of this data that I think is really important as well. So to that end, I want to make sure that we emphasize that while, again, we didn't make that, we were about 3% off that goal. One of the things that we really always also measure are the number of students that we're moving out of the lowest proficiency area, right? So we have students that go into highly proficient, approaching, and then low proficiency students. What your goal really is, if you want to start making that momentum for change, you want to move as many kids consistently out of the lowest performing area and move them up through the area. And while, and so I'm happy to actually report in this data that as we look at this data, although, for example, Dunbar dropped from the prior year pass rate. So if you take a look at the data, you'll see that they dropped. The cohort themselves reduced the percentage of students in the lowest proficiency. So the students that were minimally proficient, we actually reduced that by 30% at Dunbar, which means we have 30% less students in that lowest proficiency range than we had prior to that. So you're moving them up towards now approaching or partially proficient. That same trajectory held true for school sites such as Bethune, Capital, Edison, Emerson, Garfield, and Hurd. All of those schools reduced the number of students that they had in the lowest proficiency rate by anywhere between 8 and 24%. So what we take from that is that we're in the right trajectory to have that cohort continually move up and become more and more proficient. The first thing you got to do is take them out of that lowest proficiency level to move them into a higher proficiency level. And we're seeing that our schools have taken the message of please identify the students that need the support the most and focus on those students and get them moving. And so we're seeing some glimmers of that progress being made by our teachers and by our principals, and we're incredibly proud of it. And the other part that we just really want to emphasize, and you're going to see this in the data with 8th grade as well, is that most of the points that we're missing in terms of students' proficiency fall in the range of operations, algebraic thinking, and numbers in base 10. That's a quarter of all of the points that are possible on the assessment is just in that one standard. And that is where the standard of most word problems can be found. So multi-step word problems, that is the problems that our students are struggling the most with. Going back to Dr. Galetti's point of all of our teachers, no matter what subject area they are, making sure that they're language teachers first, because it's the vocabulary and the structure of the problems themselves that are getting in the way of them being able to show mastery. So with that being said, thank you, Dr. Galetti. And I think that concludes our overall report on goal number 2.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, sorry. I do think it's important to kind of note the drastic decrease in our schools that were closed. And we could converse about it and discuss it and say wasn't a result of the closure, but as a teacher with a child, I can guarantee you that if I were going into a closure, my students' test scores would struggle. So I just want to point that out for the community that there are effects. It does impact our students when we close schools. And this is one way that we see that. That's all.
I also have another question, I'm sorry, and maybe I don't understand this all the way, but I'm just looking at this and I'm still new at this. My question just right off the bat is what's happening at Emerson, Herrera, Magnet, and Shaw that is not happening at these other schools? Like, I feel like continuously those are schools that are passing. And so I'm wondering, and maybe you can shed some light on me, like, are the strategies different there? Is the population, the demographics different? Resources, are they different? Maybe you can help me understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. And the answer is yes to all of those things, right? As Dr. Vink points out, there are so many factors that influence whether students are successful on these assessments or are struggling on these assessments. It can be external, it can be internal. We know, for example, last year before you were on the board, we had Shaw, for example, come up and do a demonstration for us of how they conceptualize math in Montessori. And the way they conceptualize math in Montessori is very understanding the why behind the math, very hands-on. The strategies that they utilize are definitely influencing the work that we're doing on how do we do more hands-on conceptual understanding of math. By having the principal and her IEIS up here, they demonstrate what that really looked like, what a math lesson looks like, and it was all hands-on and very visual. So that would be an answer to one of those questions. Sometimes it's just really about the qualifications of the math teacher that is in that room. We're going to talk a little bit about that in specific to goal number 5. Our goal of really making sure we have highly qualified, trained math teachers in every classroom. Sometimes you see in some of this data, as you can kind of see on the far left side of it, when you see that number of students in that category, we might be talking about one classroom. board member OIA or maybe two. And so what happens in that one classroom, whether the teacher is highly qualified to be teaching that content area, had to take a leave of absence. There are so many different things that can involve it, but we definitely do see, to your point, Magnet and Shaw and some of our other schools continuously seem to have positive impacts on those students, and the demographics for some of those campuses, especially Magnet, which is becoming more and more like the rest of our schools, isn't that much different. And so we want to make sure that we're highlighting the best practices that are occurring on there. And a lot of it goes back to intentional planning, teachers being collaborative together, a lot of constructive feedback. And
Cool. Maybe another time you can sit down and explain to me how the cohorts work, because I don't really understand that either.
I
So
would love to. That
Thank
would be phenomenal.
Dr. Ailshire, may I ask for a little more, maybe an example of hands-on manipulatives? What does that look like? What does one strategy look like?
Absolutely. So, and again, if you recall, that was, I think the lesson that she did was on base blocks 10, where she was trying to figure out, it was almost like a geometry lesson where she had the different blocks that she was constructing. But I can, Susan or Dr. Galetti are also experts in this. Or Dr. Gonzalez, in terms of what
Thank you. Just
what that
a
maybe
little
looked
more
like.
clarity, what it looks like in the classroom.
So all of our classrooms do have math manipulatives. So manipulatives could be base 10 blocks so that they understand what a group of 10 is and how a group of 10, how you put 10 of those together to make 100. So they all have different types of manipulatives. What Susan's been doing along with, she's gonna be working with our coaches specifically this year and our teachers as well, is how to utilize those effectively within the classroom. So as you can imagine, when you have these different kinds of tools, and I'll give Susan the opportunity in a moment to give you an example of what that might look like. But when you have a variety of manipulatives and different blocks or different objects, for teachers, sometimes that can feel a little bit nerve-wracking because it's a lot of management that is involved with that. And so she's going to be really working hard to ensure that not only do they understand how to utilize those effectively to help support the numeracy and the conceptual understanding and the mathematical literacy that they need with those, but also how to manage those effectively so that they're able to look at data for their students and group students in ways to support their individual needs with those types of tools. Do you want to give an example of a lesson?
Oh, I could just say the best example would come in a kindergarten classroom when you're telling students, well, this is the symbol 3. Well, they don't understand what that symbol means. They really have to touch what 3 means. So you put out 3 objects and we count those. So that's what your manipulatives are doing. They're setting the foundation for the conceptual understanding so that then students can go more abstract, which is those symbols. So if you can't understand what the symbols mean, but you can touch, you can feel, that's really going to support the students at the beginning pieces of their educational career with math.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for the information. With that, we'll move on to item E3. I move that we approve our student outcomes our progress monitoring report for board goal number 2. May we please have a roll call vote?
Alicia Vink, I second.
My apologies.
Yeah, it threw me off.
Roll call for Ms. De La Rosa,
Aye.
Dr. Vink,
No.
President Trujillo,
Aye.
Savalle.
I,
With that, our motion passes and we will move on to item E4, discussing board goal number 5. The floor is actually, is it Dr. Ailshire or Dr. G that will be presenting?
I will start on goal number 5. So again, looking at our cover sheet, recognizing where we've been in middle school math, We started in 2021 with only 12% of our students being proficient in math. And when we started this work in 2023, we only had 13% of our students proficient. So we set goals to move from 16% in 2024 all the way up to 38% in 2028. So you can see last year we got to 16%, which does not help us get closer to our goal. And this year we needed to be able to get to 22% in order to hit our target. Again, there are a lot of factors that go into this. And when we look back at what's happening in early years mathematics, not having that foundational understanding and having a large number of students who are minimally proficient impacts our 8th grade math scores. So it's really important that as we look at this, we're looking at the whole system to make sure that our students are getting the support, our teachers are able to build on conceptual understanding and take students from a 16% proficient level to moving them up higher. We are not alone in the state. This is actually something that the state is working very concertedly in, trying to understand what we can do better to help more middle school students succeed in mathematics. Our high schools will tell you students are coming to high school underprepared for mathematics at high school level. And we're struggling with this. This is an area, as a former middle school math teacher, that is very near and dear to my heart. And I'm excited about the initiative that we're going to be starting. But as we look at the next page, and I turn this over to Dr. Elshire, you're going to understand the sense of urgency around instituting this new strategy.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. So as you can see, while we wanted to approach a goal of 22% to make our ultimate goal of 38% by 2028, we've lost ground in this area. So we had ended last year in 2024 at 16% proficient, which is nothing to be proud of. And we've slipped a little bit farther from that deck down to 14%. As Dr. Gonzalez noted, we are not alone. We are basically reflecting the state, what the state has been doing, which is the state has been going down or stagnant in 8th grade math since 2022. So it is something that we as a profession have a moral and professional obligation to start thinking out how we can do this and how we can do this better, because almost every single district is simultaneously that has middle school students focusing on this area and wanting to figure out how to do this better. So if you take a look again at the different cohorts where it shows you the number of students that represent each one of the cohorts, the percentage of students that passed in those cohorts, and again, that final target there, that's what they needed to get to in order for us to reach that final goal of 22%. And as you can see, none of our subgroups, not a single one of them, made the appropriate gains to kind of get to that 2025 target area. So again, working with our team, we looked at areas to focus on, which is daily strong instruction, effective use of intervention strategies, and recruitment. And I believe we've got a couple of questions before we move on to the deeper analysis.
Yes, one of the questions submitted by President Trujillo asks that we share some examples about strategies and interventions that will be implemented for our middle grades after seeing these figures. And that's a perfect opportunity for Dr. Galetti and Mrs. Brown to come and share the initiative that we're going to be looking at.
So we have a lot of work to do, and we are well aware of that and ready to tackle that work this year. Over the summer, we met as a team. We met with Dr. Lloyd and others, Susan as well, and we talked about this and decided we really need to come up with a concerted strategic plan around what we're going to do to approach this and change the data that we see here. So some of the things that we will be doing this year include one, we've had support and coaching in past years. However, this year we're doing it a little bit differently. We have coaches that are assigned specifically to support upper grades. So we won't have, I think in the past, there's been a tendency sometimes when they're at a school supporting all grades K-8 to sometimes go to the lower grades. And so we wanted to make sure that we really have some really focused coaching and support happening at those upper grades. So we do have coaching that's going to be supporting those upper grades specifically. In addition, Susan, as our district math coach, is kind of going to be taking all of those middle grade math teachers directly under her wing as well. So she'll be supporting the coaches and the math teachers directly at those grade levels. So they'll get an additional level of support, not just at the site-based level, but at the district level as well. So that strategic instructional support and math coaching is one of the strategies. Another is effective math intervention. So ensuring that as we talked about it before with the younger grades, those math manipulatives really support our students all the way up to 8th grade. So ensuring that our students have the access and the opportunity to conceptualize and develop that conceptual understanding during their tier 1. So when Dr. Gonzalez was talking about that first best instruction, we know that we need to ensure that all of our students have access to grade level content, but some of our students might need some additional support during that time. So ensuring that we're building in that scaffolding and the support with the hands-on opportunities and the math manipulatives as well. There's also with our one of our resources this year that we're excited about, our MyPath program. It's a program that is specifically targeting individual needs around math, and they released an upgrade that is specifically designed to support upper grade students in a more compressed type of way. So we're excited to see what that might help to support as well. We also are going to begin a middle school math task force. So this is a group that is going to be tasked. It's going to include district level leadership, school level leadership, teachers as well, so that we're bringing them together on a consistent basis to not only talk about this issue, but to also focus on and look at, are we seeing changes? What's the progress? So it's ensuring that we are constantly keeping an eye on this, not just each quarter, but more frequently than that. So every month that we'll be looking at that. We also have talked about developing models of effective math instruction, planning, and reflection. So one strategy we've also that we're also going to be implementing is looking at and you had pointed out some places, some schools where they were doing something different. So ensuring that we're capturing video and capturing, like it could be short videos of teacher planning, teachers talking about their planning, teacher instruction using those manipulatives, et cetera, so that we have examples. Sometimes teachers need to see what it looks like in classrooms that are their colleagues' classrooms. While they're teaching, they might not see the instruction that's happening in another classroom. So the idea to bring that to them so that they can see that and learn alongside with Susan or with a coach on their campus or with their instructional leaders. Another strategy is, and we've already actually done this one, is really looking at our math progressions and pacing guides for our teachers. So over the summer, Susan met with our math teachers, and they actually did some strategic revisions, resequencing 6th grade and 8th grade to better align with the priority standards so that our teachers are really going to be focused and that it makes sense coherently for our students as they're moving through math across the year. We also are Susan is going to be holding quarterly professional learning opportunities for our middle school math teachers. So we're going to bring them together quarterly so that they're getting some strategic learning about the math that they are going to be implementing. In addition to, she's going to be infusing those language-based strategies within that. So that's going to be something that she's going to be doing quarterly. And then between that, there will be the opportunities for that follow-up and the support from both the site-based coach and from Susan as well. And then finally, that progress monitoring. So not waiting until the end of a unit or the end of a quarter to find out how we're doing, because that might be too late. So implementing, we've talked to Dr. Lloyd about doing some more frequent checks around progress monitoring so that we are ensuring that we have some standards mastery along the way so that we can be more responsive in a faster way to what those needs might be for our students. So those are some of the strategies that we've outlined that we're going to be implementing this year to support our middle grade math specifically.
Thank you, Dr. Galletti. And as you can see, there's a lot of different planning that has been taking place since we had this data, all sorts of different ways that we're trying to tackle this, anywhere from coaching to strike forces and committees, observations of what's working in classrooms. It's going to be a full court press, and it's going to be something that we're going to be coming back to the board and reporting to often. I believe we have one more question from the board.
One of the other questions submitted by President Trujillo says that recently the SLAC recommended more hands-on learning opportunities for 8th graders. And when might something associated with that request be implemented? This also coincides with the question of what are we doing to support 8th graders that we'll be promoting to high school at the end of this year. And Ms. Brown has been working with our students and with families to offer more algebra for our 8th graders so that they are prepared to go to high school already having completed algebra. Using the hands-on learning, and as Dr. Galletti was sharing, that and having students talking about math, thinking about scenarios where they're presented with a problem and they have to solve the problem and then prove to their peers why this is the correct solution to a problem, gets them used to thinking about the reasoning and the logical aspects of mathematics, and then also gets them used to being able to present and defend their argument by using the tools that people are familiar with and being able to make a justification for why this works. That builds that deep conceptual knowledge of how numbers come together and prepares them for higher level math thinking in not only mathematics in high school, but also in science and more of the hands-on areas that they'll be encountering. Susan, do you want to add anything more in terms of what we're doing with getting students ready for high school?
I will also just add, in preparation for our new hires, that we've hired a good group of new math teachers in the upper grades, and they were trained by myself during new hire week. And I made a point to really highlight the manipulative use in small group instruction in the presentation, and also included, like Dr. Galletti was saying, sometimes you need to see somebody else using the manipulatives so that you can understand how to use it with the students. So there was a multitude of different videos that they can refer back to as they're planning to use those manipulatives in their classrooms. And in terms of Algebra 1, we're just waiting for our first diagnostic that's coming a little sooner than we've done it before. We have our AASA scores, and I've already looked through those to identify students that are highly proficient at the end of 7th grade on that test. And then I'll correlate that with their 8th grade diagnostic scores, and then make recommendations based on the students that are going to probably make the most success on a more self-paced Algebra 1 experience. And that would include using Khan Academy as what we used last year. And they have an AI component inside of there, which is like a little tutor that the students can interact with. We found a lot of success with our students that used that resource last year. And so I find that that will probably be our best bet for this year as we move forward to make a more rigorous Algebra 1 course in the future in a partnership with Phoenix Union in the years to come.
I have a question. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the fact that we want to monitor the kids before, then rather than too late. But here's my question. I know that these kids are, these children are 8th graders now. 4 years ago, it was COVID. Are these the consequences, part of the consequences for all of our interrupted learning that we had COVID? And can we forecast when that trend will somewhat be over? Because 8th graders, they were maybe 3rd, 4th grade, 5th grade. Do we see a different trend with our kindergarteners now and our 1st graders and our 2nd graders where we can actually think or visualize that maybe this is our last 8th grade class that might be struggling like this, or maybe our 7th graders for next year going into 8th grade could be potentially our last You know, are we breaking that trend anytime soon?
To some degree, we're breaking that trend, but I want to be really cautious about it. Unfortunately, the pandemic really hit, and we know this, the research has been really clear. It really hit urban centers very hard.
Right.
And the loss of learning for students and the loss that families experienced was pretty dramatic. One of the things we had this idea that once the pandemic was over and things started to return to normal, that our students would be coming back and be adjusted but what we're finding is even in kindergarten today, we still have students who were babies and weren't socialized because they were born during pandemic and didn't get that opportunity. And it speaks again to how much we know about the importance of socialization and that interaction with others. Learning really is a community event. It's very social, and we learn best when we're able to articulate ideas, ask questions, try things out, and have others challenge or push the ways in which we're thinking of things. And so we're going to see the ramifications. I think this particular cohort, we will start to see by our sixth grade group, by the time they're eighth grade, I think we're going to start seeing some of that even out. But
Okay.
we're constantly aware of that impact and having to continually think about how are we presenting learning and how are we giving students those opportunities. And so when President Trujillo was asking from our SLAC students about that question of more hands-on learning, one of the things they're rejecting is being on the computer all the time.
Wow.
They don't want to be in front of a screen and being self-taught and being led through something with an AI tutorial. They want to be able to have that exchange and to have interplay with one another and to experience things with their hand and their mind simultaneously rather than just being on a keyboard. Don't get me wrong, they love their keyboards and they love some aspects of it. They just don't want it to be the predominant part of their learning time.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I mean, my son went through the whole fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade COVID, and Khan Academy was all he did, and we were on that computer all day long. Today, he's going to be a senior next year. He wants to be on his phone, but he does not want to be on his computer. Thank you for that.
Just to add to that, Board Member De La Rosa, I do think that teachers would say that COVID changed the game as a whole in a lot of ways. And I don't know that the system has adapted enough. And I don't think kids and families are going to go back to what we were. Just attendance. We talk about attendance all the time, and that is a result of families look at education differently. Kids look at education differently. They stayed home and they were okay, well, largely. So now, having to go to school to get those things is difficult, and the system as a whole has not changed to meet the needs of all of our kids. The kids, right, want to be hands-on, and the system doesn't necessarily support that. We have to do all of these changes in order to make that a consistent part of their day. So just I'm sorry, you were finished with your, okay. Regarding the eighth graders from this year, given this data, did we offer anything for them over the summer? How do we collaborate with Phoenix Union to make sure that the kids that had this data can be successful in ninth grade? Or is that just like, good luck, high schools, here you go?
I think we can answer that in a couple different parts. One, and Dr. Glady and Susan, feel free to interrupt. We work really closely with our partners over at Phoenix Union, especially. So over the spring, one of the things that I worked really closely with the Coordinator of Student Success is we identify all the students who, This data didn't necessarily just come out of thin air. We were beginning to see trends in this data in the interim assessments that we were doing and that we were continually presenting to the board, that we were seeing this data pop up. So to that end, we didn't have to wait for the ASA data to come out for us to say these are going to be students, and these individual students are going to be students that are going to need a lot of assistance when they go into high school. And so we're really thankful for our partnership over at Phoenix Union. They reach out to us, and students that are struggling in either math or ELA, we are working with them to identify who those students are and making sure that there is appropriate landing pad over at Phoenix Union. If they need courses that are that provide that extra level of support, they've been identified throughout that collaboration process. I will defer to my team if anything else that I missed on that, but I know that that is something that we are very, very close with Phoenix Union on, making sure that we're collaborating on so they know the kids that they're getting and that what supports they're going to need as they arrive.
Does that mean they land in, and I guess that does make sense in my head now that I'm remembering how this works, but they land in like a remedial class to begin with?
They land in classes that provide more foundational work for them, yes.
And so what may be happening for some of our students is they're taking a remedial course that's building them up so that, and they might be taking courses simultaneously. So they're taking 2 math classes because they have to have 4 years of math to graduate. And we want to make sure that they're graduating by the end of the year, able to complete a course that's on the same level as an Algebra 2 course. So students may end up having to take 2 classes, one a remedial or support class along with their algebra class, preloading what they're going to be learning in their first year or in their progression of algebra.
Thank you.
Thank you both for the questions. That the predictability of it feels, just hearing about it. I just wonder if here at Phoenix Elementary, if those kind of supports are put into place, as we progress, I guess.
Absolutely. And part of what Susan and Ms. Brown and Dr. Galetti were explaining, that's all work that began. It didn't begin when we got AASA. It began in November when we saw that predictability of this is where our students are performing and seeing that we don't have the right system to support these learners. And so everything that they presented today has taken some time to build. I think the biggest factor truly is going to be the teachers that we've hired to teach middle school math. And I'll tell you, I've said this before, we're not alone. That's not comforting because this truly is an issue nationwide, but in Arizona in particular. And with the Helios Center, we have been working with our surrounding districts in the Phoenix Union to really start drilling into our data together to understand what are the course taking patterns of students in middle school that predict future success in high school? What are the environmental conditions that are impacting this? What are the curriculum that are helping to make a bigger difference? We're one of the few that even though our scores aren't where we want them to be, we're showing growth as small as it is compared to the state, we're outgrowing the performance. That's very shallow comfort because it still isn't enough for what our students need to be successful. And we really are trying to prepare them for success beyond our schools and beyond high school. So we know that these foundations are critical.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Oh, okay. Can someone send me the Emerson spring 2024 8th grade data? Does that make sense?
2024 8th grade data. They will.
Because that's when they would have had 8th grade, right?
So you.
I want to see the last year of Emerson's 8th grade compared to
Got it.
the
So you want,
first year.
so you want to see the data from Emerson when they last had their 8th grade, that last snapshot. Yep.
Yeah,
I can
thank you.
provide, yep.
And I think that's a really interesting question because one of the things we have been talking about is should we be tracking cohorts instead of setting an arbitrary goal for everyone to hit, recognizing that every cohort brings a different set of challenges? And should our goals be more flexible in that? So that is a really interesting question. And we will share that with all of the board in the board update.
Perfect. Another thing that makes me think of is at what, well, I guess we've got a study session coming up in August, I think, so I think I'll save my question for that area because it really is going to be too big, I think, for me to even understand right now. So with that, do we have any further discussion on board goal number 5's progress monitoring? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item E5 and our request approval of our progress monitoring report for board goal number 5. I move that we approve our our progress monitoring report for board goal number 5. Do we have a second?
Erica De La Rosa, I second.
Thank you very much. May we please have a roll call vote?
Vote count for Ms. De La Rosa,
Aye.
Dr. Vink,
No.
President Trujillo,
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to item F1, our community communications. We'll begin with in-person comments first. Comments will be at the 3-minute mark. And I'd like to welcome Ms. Allison Gulick to the floor, please. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, board. My name is Allison Gulick. During the school closure process, we were told that Heard and Dunbar needed to be closed to save free preschool. That district claimed financial distress and that there were people here supporting these closures of the schools and they needed free preschool. And that was the only way we were going to be able to save this free preschool program. But less than a month later, the district shuttered multiple preschool programs around the district and began charging tuition at 2 of the 3 schools serving 4-year-olds. And now, absolute silence. I'm the only one here. The same people who fought to save free preschool have disappeared. But I have to ask, where did they go? But I think I found out. Shaw's PS2 program was grandfathered in, and now those students don't have to pay tuition. I, as a parent with a PS1 student at Shaw now, am paying $500 a month. I don't care. I believe very strongly in Montessori education. But what I don't believe in is a system where high quality early education is only available to families who win a lottery and are lied to by both Shaw and Faith North, being told that Shaw was now tuition-based for 4-year-olds when you have a 4-year-old. I'm doing my best to stay hopeful with this district. I share options for schools in this district. I share options for pre-K. I share options all over. We have a large social media following for our neighborhood. I have a very large voice in the Heard boundary area. I'm trying really, really hard to stay positive here. But I can't force parents and families to enroll in these programs when all they see is confusion and instability. And the one thing about Heard boundary that repeatedly was ignored is that Heard actually has the highest birth rate. That boundary has the highest birth rate out of every boundary in the area, with over 100 kids born per year. That's in the report that I was sent to you. And so this is not a low demand area. It's a wasted opportunity. Eliminating preschools near most of our students live is a direct disservice to every child that lives here. Faith North is great. My son went there for 2 years. If you have a car and can manage a half-day program and work downtown, it's great. But for many people who live and work on the outskirts of downtown and they have their houses there, it's really hard for families to get there. And therefore, it's becoming a barrier for people to access quality pre-K programs. And in a district where 0% of 8th graders with a disability are passing math and only 10% of 3rd graders, as we just saw in the data, we should be starting interventions earlier, not later, so that students aren't already behind when they're starting kindergarten. It shows that pre-K at Shaw prepares students for testing, the tests and the scores and the proficiencies, as they exceed the district by light years. Even Dr. Gonzalez highlighted how students are lacking socialization, and what can help with that? Pre-K. Pre-K should be a foundation at this point, not an afterthought. It's quite evident that it's not a luxury anymore, but a necessity for raising these scores and providing a foundation for our children.
That's time, Ms.
Okay,
Gulick.
thanks.
Thank you very much for participating. I will now give the floor to Mrs. Ship. How many electronic comments do we have this evening?
We have two.
Perfect. Whenever you're ready.
Our first comment is from Paul Booth. It has come to the light that the P2 four-year-old full-day pre-K program at Shaw is grandfathered in and is free for this year, and $750 will be charged next year. This has lacked transparency. Meanwhile, Emerson and Kenilworth full-day program is $750 a month this year. With approximately 58 students enrolled at Shaw, the district is losing out on more than $400,000 in potential tuition for this coming school year at a school that claims to have a wait list. Meanwhile, the programs at Emerson and Kenilworth are heavily struggling with enrollment. Is this fair or equitable? Now, as a last resort, the district is taking drastic measures by requesting the board approves turning all three programs into licensed child care centers. So they can get scholarships and qualify for DES for low-income families. We have certified teachers that will now become child care providers if this passes. This will drastically change the future of our pre-K programs, quality and academic focus, as well as risk lowering the qualification requirements of our preschool programs going forward. Those of us that have enrolled in all three programs are expecting a pre-K program, not childcare. These last-minute changes are unacceptable, especially for those of us expected to pay at Kenilworth, Emerson, and for 3-year-olds at Shaw. The board needs to reject this last-minute request to apply to become childcare facilities. Remove all tuition for the full-time 4-year-old programs, making it free at Emerson and Kenilworth, which will solve the enrollment crisis the district created. This is the only fair option for all at this point, considering Shaw is free. This will provide quality education for all, including low-income families for this coming school year without copays or remaining balance after scholarships. This will also allow the district and the board to properly plan the rollout and implementation of any changes to our preschool programs to ensure a successful rollout that is not chaotic and unfair. Clearly, it is overpriced, not properly marketed, or simply rolled out too late in year, or people feel they were lied to and have had enough. We were told over and over how important it was to preserve preschool during the first half of this year when the district insisted on closing 2 schools. We know we have the budget to afford this. If that is not the case, then why is the district not charging Shaw if our financial situation is dire? It is time for this board to finally step up to the district and say no, enough is enough. It should be free for all or everyone pays. Turning all 3 sites into child care centers is not the only option, and the board should not feel pressured to approve this item. I implore you to ask the tough questions, vote to keep preschool and child care separate. Our preschool teachers are great assets and are providing an important foundation for the education of our children. Let's invest in them. Our next comment is from April Pettit. My name is April Pettit, and I'm the proud new president of PECTA. On Friday, we held our back-to-school social, and this year we were thrilled to partner with ESPA for the event. It was a tremendous success. I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to ESPA President Maria Rodriguez for organizing the space and for everything she and Leslie Pena did to make the event such a success. Your efforts did not go unnoticed and were deeply appreciated. A special thank you as well to President Trujillo for attending and for helping with cleanup afterward. That support was truly above and beyond. I also want to express my sincere gratitude to the board and district leadership for fostering such a positive and collaborative working partnership. On Friday afternoon, Dr. Gonzalez personally called to let me know that she and other cabinet members were on their way to assist a teacher who had to make a last-minute classroom change and was feeling overwhelmed. In all my years in education, I have never witnessed that kind of hands-on support from district administration. That level of care and responsiveness deserves to be celebrated. I am truly looking forward to an amazing and collaborative school year ahead. Thank you for your continued support. April Pettit. This concludes our comments.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ship. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda, items G1 through G16. I move that we approve our consent agenda as presented. Do we have a second?
Erica De La Rosa, I second.
Vote count for Ms. De La Rosa,
Aye.
Dr. Vink,
No.
President Trujillo,
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to item H1. Do we have any board member requests or future agenda items?
I do. So I am interested particularly around discipline, and what types of disciplinary actions that we're taking. And I'm curious about how many kids we suspend, except like expel, if any, and referrals. And my son is particularly in a Boys Town program, and it was brought to my attention with the move that our kiddos were going to have a hard time with the new transition. My son in particular has a hard time with clothing, and now he has to wear uniforms. And so as parents were talking, we were really concerned that our kids were it was gonna be a higher rate of referrals than usual. And so, our kids get referrals on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And then it got me thinking, like, how many I don't think outside of my kids' program, referrals are given as much as the program that my son is in. So it got me thinking about where are we at when it comes to discipline? And I believe that you all do an update. I'm just not sure how often. I'd like to ask if it's possible, if I can get a monthly update, like where we're at with that. My concern long-term is really about the school to prison pipeline. Are we pushing kids out? Are we keeping them in? And then again, my kid's in a behavioral program. So I'd like to see if we can incorporate that type of information into our data or, reporting if at all possible.
Thank you very much. Do we have any others? Hearing none.
Madam Chair, before we move to adjournment, would it be okay if I take just a moment for a point of personal privilege?
Please, yes.
I just wanted to take a moment. I have some personal news to share. My husband has been relocated out of state for work. In the past, he has traveled without my son and I because the Coronado neighborhood and Phoenix L have been our home and community for over 10 years. However, we have made the difficult decision to relocate as a family. My last meeting as a board member will be August 14th. I appreciate the support and patience of our community as the district navigates these changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vink. However we can help the transition, we're open to supporting you and in this decision. With that, we will move on to item I1, adjournment. I would like to move that we adjourn at 6:44 p.m., which is really early.
Alicia Banker, second.
Thank you. May we please have a roll call vote, Mrs. Ship?
Vote count for Ms. De La Rosa,
Aye.
Dr. Vink,
Aye.
President Trujillo,
Aye.
Ms. Ovalle.
Aye.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you to those who participated with us this evening. It's really appreciated as far as the participation goes. Our next board meeting will be on a Thursday, August 14th at 5:15 p.m. Governing board meetings will now be once per month and on Thursdays moving forward. The schedule will be uploaded to board docs and reflected on our website soon. Thank you all for joining us this evening.